Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jeff Fitter, Chancellor here at the University of Mississippi, and I'm very, very pleased to have you with us today. Thank you for joining us on this very exciting day here at the University of Mississippi. Today, we're launching a program that's been under development since slightly over a year. I had the opportunity to talk about it a bit at my investiture last November. It's called Flagship Constellations. The program has a lot of promise for the University of Mississippi. It's also a key part of our recent strategic plan that we just launched. I encourage you all to see on the web at flagshipforward.olemiss.edu. It's a way for us to capitalize on our many strengths across the campus. It's also a way to make a positive impact in the world by addressing the grand challenges we face across our campuses and make a real difference. And I have an exciting announcement to share in a few minutes, but first, I'd like to take a moment to talk about the vision behind this program. If I may, let me share a few ideas about constellations themselves. The Pleiades, Orion, Cassiopeia. We're all familiar with these names. These clusters of stars captured the imaginations of ancient Greeks and inspired legends that have endured millennia. They also served a very functional purpose as a system of navigation, long before we all had GPS on our phones. Isn't it neat to think something as seemingly simple as the night sky could guide sailors across the seas? But really, it could be argued that navigation by the stars was one of the great examples of highly successful scientific collaboration and innovation. It required geometry, astronomy, and the development of special instruments. And like all great ideas, it was inspired by observing something that was right there in front of us all along, the night sky. Just as Newton had a falling apple to thank for the discovery of gravity. I'd also like to say something about flagships. When we say that the University of Mississippi is the flagship university of the state, it doesn't just mean that we're the oldest public university in Mississippi or the largest. It also means we're charged with important responsibilities, charting the path toward a better future for our state and serving as a leader in our state and beyond. We are truly a great public international research university. Therefore, we have a responsibility and an obligation to tackle the pressing issues of our time. Today, you'll hear people from 4 wonderful groups representing both the Oxford campus and the Medical Center. Each constellation is focused around a theme. The members of each constellation represent widely different disciplines. Their areas of expertise are unique and specific. These 4 constellations are made up of brilliant individual stars, yes, but together they make up truly that legendary impact. And on that note, I want to stress that the flagship constellation groups are open. There are invitations to everyone who's interested to join. They're not dynamic. They are dynamic, they're not static. New members are always welcome. If today's event inspires you to become involved in one or more of the flagship constellations, then I see that as a major success. By working together, we can address compelling challenges where no single discipline has all the answers and where only deep insights from multiple points of view will discover solutions. In many cases, the solutions to these grand challenges we tackle may have scientific or technical components, but the hardest pieces may be in the human relations that make ultimately solutions work out. One of the ways we will champion this endeavor is through the establishment of new endowed professorships that will support the constellation areas, as well as entrepreneurship to help translate advances in these areas into, where pertinent, technologies and companies to advance our society today. We must aim high and reach for the heavens. Yes, it is a big sky, but by reaching across it, we will and can make truly a big difference. Of course, a program like this one functions best with strong support, and that brings me to a very, very exciting announcement, the establishment of the Ernest R. Duff Flagship Constellation Fund. The university has received a very generous donation of $1 million in support of this initiative from Tommy and Jim Duff, sons of Ernest Duff. With this gift, they are commemorating their late father's love for Ole Miss, his alma mater. Ernest Duff was a leader and a visionary. While at Ole Miss, he was selected student body president. He later earned his JD from Ole Miss and began a successful career in law. While serving as an attorney for Georgia Pacific, he learned that the company needed someone to haul wood chips, and he recognized an entrepreneurial opportunity and founded Forest Products Transports. He later started Southern Tire Mart, which has become the largest commercial tire dealer in North America. Eventually, Southern Tire Mart led to the formation of Duff Capital Investors. What a tremendous way for them to honor their father and ensure his continued impact and legacy. With this support, we'll be able to truly maximize and launch the potential of Flagship Constellations. And we're so honored to have members of the Duff family with us today, and I'd like to ask them to please stand so that we could recognize them. They're seated right there on my left, on your right. Let me start with Bobby Duff, widow of Ernest Duff, and Ernest's children, Thomas Duff, Jim Duff, Stephen Duff. Jane Duff Thomley could not be with us, and Jim's wife, Sherry, is also with us today. Would you all please stand up so we can recognize you? I want to mention, too, that we also have a number of other members of the Duff family, including grandchildren and great-grandchildren, including two current Ole Miss students, Caroline and Maggie Duff. So we're all really happy to have you with us today. Please join me again in giving a heartfelt thank you to the Duff family. And now we have the honor of having Tom and Jim come share a few words with us. So Tom and Jim, please come out, and would like to hear some remarks.
Good afternoon. On behalf of our family, we are delighted and very honored to be here. Chancellor Vitter, Provost Wilkins, fellow citizens with the Ole Miss community, it is our great pleasure and opportunity to participate in today's very important event. I know that many of you never knew my father, was not aware of him, but if you will let us indulge you for about a minute, I'd like to tell you a little bit about him. He was raised in Columbia, Mississippi. He was the youngest of 5 children. His parents had a 7th and an 8th grade education, and he was the only one in his family that had the opportunity to receive a higher education. When he graduated from Columbia High School, he then went to the University of Mississippi, and he took a bus up here, and he arrived, and for the next 4 years, his eyes were open, and his mind was enlarged, and he loved this university. When he was a senior, as Dr. Vitter has said, he was selected as in the University Hall of Fame. He was elected as the student body president. I guess he enjoyed it so much that he spent the next 3 years in law school here. And he graduated #1 in his class. It was always a hard act, brother, to kind of follow him.
He told us he graduated #1 in the class. We don't really know. We have no records of that. You know, our father was a lot of things to, I guess, us being the children, and you know, you're always very proud of your father, and we were extremely proud of our father. Education was such an important part to my dad. And the unique thing about my father, when I think about him, he was a gentleman lawyer. I mean, he really was a gentleman lawyer, and that was part of his character of his life. And he was, you know, Ole Miss was such a big part of being that lawyer to him. It was part of him. I remember as a kid hearing all these wonderful stories about the different individuals of different people he came in contact with, from professors, from students, from everybody that had a big influence on his life, and how, you know, wonderful that was for him, how it molded him into the person that he was, because he was the type person that changed many lives. So Ole Miss to us is such a special place because of him. It's a unique institution, and we're very pleased, and he would be extremely pleased with this because he would want to give back to Ole Miss. I didn't go to Ole Miss. None of the kids went to Ole Miss, but it's very exciting for me that my youngest daughter is Caroline is Ole Miss, and extremely exciting for me that my oldest daughter, Maggie, is in law school at Ole Miss. He would be very happy about that. So this is wonderful for us to be able to do this on behalf of him, because he would be extremely proud and pleased to do this.
You know, I think each of us always stand on the shoulders of those that have come before, and our father certainly did that. The education he received, the opportunities that were given to him in his life, he utilized throughout all of his life, and we are so grateful for that. Not only did he enrich himself, the power of an education enriched his family, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren, and we are very grateful for that legacy and very grateful for what Ole Miss has meant in each of our lives. You know, I'm going to close with a quote that I remember Dr. Vitter using one time at his investiture from Frank Everett. He said, "The university gives a diploma and regretfully then terminates your tenure, but one never graduates from Ole Miss." Ernest Duff never had more opportunity, and he always graduated from Ole Miss. Thank you again.
Thank you.
I should mention, since Tom and Jim were out here, that Tom Duff is a member of our Board of Trustees of the Institutions of Higher Learning. And one of the lifelong friends of their dad, Ernest, was Brad Dye. And Brad Dye and Ernest were ASB presidents in consecutive years, and very close friends. And Brad Dye's son, Ford Dye, is in the audience, also a member of our Board of Trustees of the IHL. So there's some great connections driving us forward. So before I close, I just want to thank also all those who have been essential for seeing the Flagship Constellations initiative come to this fruition, this launch. On the Oxford campus, that's Provost Noel Wilkin, Vice Chancellor for Research Josh Gladden, and Vice Chancellor for University Relations Alice Clark. And on the Jackson campus, Associate Vice Chancellor for Research Richard Summers. And you're going to be hearing from several folks, faculty members on both campuses. You and your staffs have done a fantastic job of developing the vision for this program, shepherding the process, and organizing today's event. And of course, most importantly, I want to thank all the Constellation members and the speakers here today who are devoting their great time, energy, and talented minds to this initiative and to the University of Mississippi. I look forward to hearing today's talks, and I'm very excited to see the future of what we can do together to make a real impact in our state, our nation, and our world. So now let me turn things over to Provost Noel Wilkin.
Thank you, Chancellor Vitter. I'm thrilled to be here and to have the opportunity to share a few comments about the Flagship Constellations. This collaborative initiative has the ability to advance our standing as an academic institution, to magnify the influence of our research on solving major challenges faced by society, and to contribute knowledge that will change the lives of people. It has been my pleasure to work with deans, chairs, faculty, and others who are motivated and willing to share their creative ideas to make this initiative possible. Most importantly, it's exciting to see the energy that our faculty have brought to this promising initiative. Today, we will be hearing from the people involved with each of the 4 themes, or constellations: big data, brain wellness, community well-being, and disaster resilience. As you will soon see, the challenges facing our society in each of these areas are multifaceted. It will take experts in neurology, medicine, accountancy, psychology, sociology, computer science, as well as other disciplines to contribute meaningful discoveries and solutions to these areas. What's even more encouraging is that today you will hear from only a fraction of 170 University of Mississippi community members who have become engaged with one or more of the constellations. And we expect that this number will grow. As the Chancellor said, membership is not fixed. My hope for you today is that our researchers will spark your interest in this program, provide a glimpse into the excellent work that's going on in our community and its potential to remedy major problems that we as a society face, not only in Mississippi, but throughout the United States and around the globe. It's also my hope that it will rekindle your confidence that our faculty and researchers have incredible potential to change the lives of others through their research. Before I introduce the first group of speakers, I'd like to thank you all once again for coming, and I also need to recognize and thank a few people. The development of the Flagship Constellations has required the involvement of many, many people from across our university. Please help me in recognizing the people who have been involved to this point, which include every single person who proposed a theme for a constellation, every person who is currently engaged with a constellation, whether you signed up on day 1 or joined only recently, you are a big part of this project in getting us to this point. Josh Gladden, Richard Summers, and Jason Hale, who were charged with overseeing the process that led to the selection of our themes out of many highly engaging ideas. Donna Strum and all the reviewers who assisted in the process of developing the themes. Alice Clark, who's been overseeing the big picture, and Amy Lewis, who has led the process of showcasing this initiative. The Chancellor for his visionary leadership, and the Duffs for their extraordinary and generous gift. Today, it will be my honor to play the role of Emcee. I'll give the names of the people who will speak. Their titles are included in the program, and full bios are on the website at flagshipconstellations.olemiss.edu. We will begin today by hearing speakers from the Big Data Constellation. They are Richard Summers, Dawn Wilkins, Deb Winger, and Mark Wilder.
Good evening. So what is the Big Data Flagship Constellation?
Thank you, Richard. We are inundated with data, all kinds of data. Humans have a difficult time handling the large amount of email, social media, text, images, video, audio that we all get on a daily basis. The data is usually obtained from a wide range of sources, such as databases, sensors, social media feeds, and others. Research also is increasingly data-driven compared to the traditional hypothesis-driven research. But even in hypothesis-driven research, data is normally collected and used to confirm the hypothesis. With so much data available in so many different formats, we must change the way we process and analyze it to gain new insights and drive innovative research in the future. The goal of the Big Data Flagship Constellation is to stimulate multidisciplinary collaboration that enables the development of data management and analysis methods to support data-driven and hypothesis-driven research in a broad range of disciplines. We seek insights that lead to better decisions and strategies to improve the lives and livelihoods of the people of the state of Mississippi, the U.S., and across the globe. In addition to the core informatics research, we have 5 research thrust areas: science and healthcare, society and environment, business and the economy, arts and culture, and finally, education and workforce training. Over the next few minutes, you will hear about some of these.
Thank you. The complexity of our modern healthcare systems, with a new emphasis on translational science and precision medicine approaches, have resulted in an ever-increasing need for data and analytics capabilities. The ubiquitous use of electronic medical records has also provided a ready source of large amounts of healthcare data that were not previously available. However, we know that the determinants of health are not limited to the information that exists in the medical record. The myriad of social and economic factors that impact patients' disease states and general well-being are just now coming into focus. It is possible that your health risks may be more associated with the numbers of your zip code than even the measures of your cholesterol. So a multidisciplinary approach to understanding and managing diseases in our populations is required in a way that draws on information from many varied sources. This flagship constellation provides the framework for the natural collaboration of diverse experts to coalesce and analyze the big data relevant to the gravitational theme of science and health, with the hope of improving the lives of Mississippians.
Big data is both a meme and a marketing term, but it helps to power the algorithms behind our news feeds, Netflix recommendations, autocorrect features, and countless other tools we use every single day. Nowhere is data more prevalent than in our social networks. Google and Facebook are masters at harnessing the data we all generate on the web, from online searches, social media posts, and instant messages. And then they target us with internet advertising. Those keywords, posts, and tweets also make it possible for data scientists to measure human behavior and sentiment as it happens and in fine detail. However, there's a danger when it is misused to spread misleading information or to feed individuals content that an algorithm has determined is right for them. We are already studying the impact of Twitter on the political process, the categories of content that show up most often in Facebook feeds, and the use of social media information in case of a crisis or environmental emergency. In today's media environment, news consumption habits and trust in media are changing. Online misinformation is increasing, and the need to use big data in storytelling is more compelling than ever. Big data can enrich news stories and showcase the power of investigative reporting. Journalists who use big data must clean, process, and analyze it before explaining it. They must also examine the data's significance, validity, credibility, consistency, authenticity, neutrality, and confirmability. And they must reliably interpret massive data sets on tight deadlines with skill shortages, inadequate visualization tools, and an uncertain return on investment. Despite these challenges, more newsrooms than ever are producing incredible work using big data. These stories give meaning to the numbers, reduce complexity, keep society rooted in facts, increase media credibility, and help audiences make sense of the world. This flagship constellation provides opportunity for collaboration among content creators, those with deep backgrounds in data science, and others with broad technological expertise to make assessments about the information people in our state are consuming and to find ways to ensure that they have what they need to make informed choices.
Data is an important asset for all businesses. Developing effective ways to collect, analyze, and interpret that data provides business intelligence, which in turn will increase revenues, allow for more effective marketing and customer service, and provide a competitive advantage to the business. The digital revolution has opened many opportunities for individuals and companies that are able to identify creative, new products or services. A recent Forbes article predicts the data analytics market to exceed $200 billion by the year 2020, creating great opportunities for businesses in Mississippi and beyond. Financial organizations are increasingly relying on big data and analytics. Recently, global Big Four public accounting firm KPMG selected the University of Mississippi's Patterson School of Accountancy as one of 9 universities in the nation to partner with to deliver graduate programs in data analytics. Beginning fall 2018, the Patterson School will offer a Master of Accountancy in Data Analytics and will be the only university nationally partnering with KPMG to offer a Master of Taxation and Data Analytics. KPMG is providing full financial support for 30 students each year to attend these new graduate programs at the University of Mississippi. The new programs will provide students with a broad array of data analytic skills and prepare them to succeed in the digital world. This flagship constellation provides avenues for collaboration among various experts in data science and business to generate research and to educate students, which will benefit the business and the economy in Mississippi and beyond.
It is often stated that information is power. In this age of information, those that learn to leverage the power of the big data that is now available will certainly succeed. But the task requires a collaboration of minds and diverse expertise. As an academic excellence center and a part of the state's flagship university, the success of this approach will not be solely for our benefit, but is intended for those that we serve. This is the primary mission of the Big Data Flagship Constellation.
In Money Magazine's most recent list of valuable career skills, making sense of big data is the first on the list. This doesn't mean that everyone needs a degree in computer science, data science, or statistics, even though these are fields that are in high demand. It does mean that most jobs across a wide range of disciplines, employers are looking for employees who have some technical abilities and experience working with big data. A new minor in Digital Media Studies, or DMS, was recently created on the Oxford campus for exactly this purpose. The minor allows for an emphasis in computing, digital communications, or digital arts. The DMS minor is beneficial to students in all majors to improve their technical and problem-solving skills. As we educate more students in these important skills, we hope to attract companies to Mississippi to take advantage of a workforce with the technical expertise needed to be successful.
Thank you, Dr. Summers, Wilkins, Wenger, and Wilder. This grand challenge touches so many businesses and industries and lives. Next, we will hear from those in the Brain Wellness Constellation: Mike Lehman, Jen Renneker, Chad Washington, Christy Willett, and Lika Coolin.
Thank you, Provost Wilkins, and good evening, everyone. Brain wellness is the major goal of our field called neuroscience. The brain is an incredibly complex organ. Its functions make us who we are, and an understanding of the brain and nervous system is truly one of the final frontiers of knowledge. As neuroscientists, we hope not only to understand the normal functions of the brain, but also what goes wrong in the brain in disease and after nervous system injury. With this knowledge, we hope to ultimately prevent and reverse the human suffering caused by conditions such as stroke, spinal cord injury, addiction, and autism. These are the problems that make up the gravitational themes that comprise our constellation. And tonight, my colleagues working in areas of neurotrauma, stroke, development, and addictions will talk to you about their work and about how we see the future and the hope for promise in curing these problems and disease. Jen.
Imagine being who you are today and tomorrow suffering a traumatic brain or spinal cord injury. These types of injuries happen in an instant. They are never expected, but are often dealt with for a lifetime. Brain and spinal cord injuries can change not only how we are, but who we are. An aspiring collegiate football player who suffers a spinal cord injury may no longer be able to play the sport he loves. That loss distorts his identity and, in turn, may lead to depression. As a neurotrauma theme within the constellation, we seek to promote brain wellness at every level of scientific discovery and across the continuum of care, from directly after the traumatic injury to rehabilitation and on to chronic management. There are many exciting opportunities for us. For example, cross-disciplinary research between biomedical engineering and medicine may find new ways to drive the brain's ability to adapt, a discovery that could enable the football player with a spinal cord injury to experience enhanced restoration and recovery of his ability to walk. The National Science Foundation has identified that the time is ripe to tackle large-scale problems in neuroscience, including the potential for plasticity after injury. We believe the University of Mississippi can lead a paradigm shift in this field by emphasizing the translational and integrative aspects of research. By combining scientific, technological, and clinical capabilities within and across its campuses, the University of Mississippi will build on its current successes, including the recent development of the UMMC Neuro Institute. The science and technology to protect, enhance plasticity in, or even actually repair the damaged nervous system is ready for translation to human study and clinical application. This will have far-reaching impact on the quality of life of Mississippians with neurological injuries and associated disabilities.
Mississippi is the epicenter of a nationwide stroke epidemic. This year alone, over 41,000 Mississippians will suffer a stroke. Of these, over 12,000 people will be permanently disabled. Over 8,000 will live the rest of their lives in a nursing home, and almost 2,000 will die. Unfortunately, based on these statistics, someone in this room is very likely to be affected by a stroke in some way by the end of the year. Economically, the cost to our state is over $1 billion for the initial care of these individuals, and then more than $6 billion over the course of their lifetime. Mississippi cannot sustain this. We must be better. The Brain Wellness Constellation positions the University of Mississippi to be at the forefront of ending this epidemic. In fact, we're doing this already, whether it's discovering new drugs to help prevent or treat strokes, improving recovery through novel methods and rehabilitation, or making use of UMMC's telehealth network. We are improving the lives of Mississippians every day.
The developmental origins of health and disease concept proposes that the neurodevelopment of babies and children is influenced greatly by many aspects of their environment, and particularly by parents' nutrition, lifestyle, and exposure to chemicals and toxicants. Neurodevelopmental deficits resulting from these exposures can persist into adulthood and may even be passed on to the next generation. The development theme of our constellation will leverage expertise from both the Oxford and Medical Center campuses to fundamentally understand this important public health problem. At the basic science level, researchers in biology and pharmacy are using laboratory animal models to understand adverse developmental outcomes from drug and environmental chemical exposure. For translation of these discoveries, the constellation will facilitate interactions with various colleagues. One conversation will be with UMMC's Center of Excellence in Perinatal Research, which provides core facilities and expertise for understanding diseases associated with adverse pregnancies. We'll also work with UMMC's Center for Advancement of Youth, which is working to improve health and development outcomes for children less than 6 years old. They're doing this through best practice training programs of medical professionals and enhanced screening of young patients. Collectively, our constellation's goal is to understand and implement new policies or therapies to protect the sensitive aspects of children's brain development and long-term health.
Addiction is a brain disease, and as part of the Brain Wellness Constellation, we seek to bring together broad expertise in the science of addiction across our campuses in both Oxford and Jackson. Our goal is to make key discoveries in all aspects of this disease. To do so, we propose a bench-to-bedside to community approach that will develop new therapeutic strategies ranging from drug discovery to patient outreach to public policy. The long-term goal is to establish state-of-the-art community-based treatment paradigms that interact closely with research groups at UM and UMC, providing and receiving critical data to inform therapeutical discovery and development. The initial focus will be on opiate addiction. In Mississippi, as in other states across our nation, we are in the midst of an opiate epidemic, with alarming increases in the use of heroin and prescription opioids, as well as overdose deaths. This crisis has profound detrimental effects on public health and the economy. Unfortunately, prescription of opioid painkillers, such as hydrocodone, remain in the millions in Mississippi, and there's a clear need for interventions and evidence-based therapies that cross not just socioeconomic barriers, but educational and public policy barriers as well. While our initial goal is the opiate epidemic, the brain system responsible for opiate addiction also underlie addiction for nicotine, alcohol, and many other drugs of abuse. We hope this work will serve as a model system for addressing other present and future challenges in addictive disorders. And ultimately, it may help us understand addiction and drug abuse more broadly, as well as gambling disorders and the behavioral aspects of overeating and obesity.
Thanks to my colleagues for their excellent descriptions. Neuroscience as a field is critically dependent on our crossing traditional boundaries, the boundaries between disciplines as diverse as biology, psychology, philosophy, law, medicine, engineering, and others. By combining our talents, we intend to push the boundaries of knowledge in each of these areas of brain disease you've heard about. At the same time, we hope to reveal principles that promote brain wellness and ultimately improve the health and the well-being of all Mississippians. I join with the Chancellor in inviting you to join us in this grand challenge. Thank you.
It is clear that expanding the boundaries of knowledge around brain health will have a far-reaching impact on health and quality of life. Thank you. Our next flagship constellation is the Community Wellbeing Constellation. Today, we will hear from Kate Centeas, Josh Mann, and Megan Rosenthal.
Good afternoon. We are in the midst of a healthcare crisis. The U.S., like countries around the world, is experiencing a growing epidemic of lifestyle and behaviorally influenced health concerns. Among these concerns are premature births, fetal origins of adult disease, obesity, heart disease, diabetes, and disability. These issues don't stand alone. They are very often coupled with limited access to appropriate and local care. Many of them disproportionately impact the poor and people of color. That means that we not only face a healthcare crisis, we're also facing a crisis of equality and lost potential. We know that health problems are affected by unequal access to resources essential to well-being: clean air and water, nutritious foods, secure housing, quality employment and income levels, and timely and appropriate preventative care. Health problems are multifaceted and tricky to solve in resource-poor environments because of how social, biological, and environmental factors are intertwined. Because these issues are intimately connected, we're emphasizing community well-being in our constellation. We're taking a multifactorial and holistic approach to help build more robust communities in Mississippi and the world. But how do we study such entangled and complex issues? Can we collaboratively work to positively impact our communities, our state, our nation, and the world? We must go beyond what has been done before. We need to be inclusive and creative. The central goal of the Community Wellbeing Constellation is to pioneer an integrated, collaborative network that can provide solutions to pressing issues of inequalities in Mississippi, the United States, and around the globe. While doing so, we hope to contribute innovative methods to address these issues in diverse contexts. Beyond improving health determinants, we need to find a broad range of integrated measures that contribute to improved well-being. To get there, we need to work with scholars from multiple disciplines and forge true partnerships with community members and key stakeholders. Make no mistake, this is ambitious. Our goal is to be no less than the national and international pioneer in how to integrate basic research, methodological innovation, and implementation across disciplines. We want to do this while addressing local issues of critical importance. That means that the organizational model and the methods we develop will be scalable and transportable to different contexts. This will provide visibility to multiple disciplines and colleges and schools at the University of Mississippi and the University of Mississippi Medical Center. It could also potentially provide commercializable deliverables. We have set the bar high, but we think the cost of not doing so is even higher. We, the faculty, the university, Mississippians, healthcare providers, community members, patients, deserve innovation, and we can do it with your help. But what will this look like in practice, and what might some of the impacts be?
Our constellation includes colleagues across a wide range of professional backgrounds and scholarly interests. It includes sociologists, educators, economists, anthropologists, pharmacists, social workers, physicians, environmental health experts, engineers, biologists, data scientists, and many others. This diverse group of scholars will address topics including environmental health, mental health, food security and nutrition, housing, poverty and inequality, healthcare, and other promising avenues as they relate to health outcomes. To help you get a better appreciation of the kind of work we'll be doing within this constellation, I'd like to share 3 of the projects we're already working on. The first is a project to explore how to best implement telemedicine in Bolivia, using lessons learned in Mississippi. For those unfamiliar with the term, telemedicine is the use of telecommunication and information technology to provide healthcare at a distance. We're working with partners to develop a comparative approach to culturally appropriate and effective implementation in poor rural areas. Our partners are 2 Bolivian universities, the Bolivian Ministry of Health, traditional medicine practitioners, patients, and the Schools of Medicine and Population Health at UMC. This project has integrated undergraduate and professional students in the research to provide hands-on training. We're also starting a rotation exchange between Bolivia and Mississippi for medical students from both places. This project will help improve healthcare provision to those who traditionally have been excluded from accessing high-quality care, while simultaneously training students to be critical international researchers and practitioners. Second, we have a project focused on helping people in the Mississippi Delta develop new strategies and policies to monitor and improve water safety and knowledge. To do this, the School of Pharmacy Division of Environmental Toxicology, the National Sea Grant Law Center, and the Center for Population Studies are working with community-based organizations to conduct environmental health education, collect data about housing and water quality, and test drinking water for lead contamination. The third project I want to tell you about is one we hope will help some of Mississippi's most vulnerable, our premature and low birth weight babies. The Neonatal Intensive Care Unit at the UMMC Children's Hospital has teamed up with community health centers in the Delta region, a nonprofit organization, and a group of interdisciplinary researchers ranging from demography to social work to biostatistics. The effort seeks to create, implement, and evaluate a program for mothers attempting to breastfeed their low birth weight babies. Working with the most vulnerable babies and offering state-of-the-art support to their families, the insights from this work will help inform new models of care that span across the rural-urban continuum. To continue and expand work on these types of projects, our constellation has established a number of sub-constellations, which are working groups within the overall constellation, examining high-yield focus areas in a coordinated fashion. The following sub-constellations have been identified: healthcare, poverty, food security, environmental health, climate change, social capital, housing, and research methods. Each sub-constellation includes multiple scholars with related interests and expertise. We believe this structure will allow us to remain flexible as new scholars join the constellation. As other key focus areas come to light, we can increase the number of sub-constellations over time. By working in these key areas using such a coordinated approach, we expect to make real and lasting improvements in well-being for the people of Mississippi, the United States, and beyond.
It is my pleasure to wrap up our discussion of the vision and strategic initiatives of the Community Wellbeing Constellation. But before I get into the future directions of our constellation, I want to tell you a little story about the people who are really the driving force behind our constellation's efforts. In the short time that I have been at the University of Mississippi, I have had the distinct privilege of getting to meet, and more importantly, getting to know many wonderful Mississippians who also happen to have diabetes through a community-engaged research development project. More specifically, we have been working with people to understand diabetes self-management. By working together, we can generate research evidence that is meaningful and important to them. Over the last year, our patient team members have honored us by sharing their stories, their struggles, and their triumphs. Nothing is more heartening than to meet up with one of our patient team members after 4 or 5 months and learn from them that they have lost 15 or 20 pounds, or that their blood sugar levels are now under control, or that one of their children or grandchildren has gone off to college or taken their first steps. But I cannot begin to express to you how heartbreaking it is to also learn from our same patient team members that they continue to struggle on a daily basis managing their condition. On one of our recent visits, a patient team member shared her family's monthly struggle to pay for the insulin she knows she and her husband need to stay healthy. She was almost in tears over the stress and anxiety this situation places on her and her family. And while I wish I could say that this was a one-off story, that is sadly not the case. People around our community, state, country, and the world have to make daily decisions about health. Whether to buy the medicine they need or pay the power bill. Whether to send a sick child to school or miss a day of pay to stay home with them. Whether to move to a new area in search of better work or stay in a place with a depressed economy to care for an ailing mother who has no other care options. These people are members of our family, our neighbors, and our friends. These are good people. These are the people we are working for in the Community Wellbeing Constellation. Our constellation has started bringing together people from across our campuses and in many communities around our state, the country, and the world who are deeply invested in helping people, just like the woman I told the story about. Together, we are going to tackle the grand and sticky problems we face in our communities. To solve these problems, we are going to develop new ways of collaborating across disciplines and practices. In so doing, we will see these problems in new ways. We will work together to develop solutions to these problems that are effective, sustainable, and scalable. The stakes couldn't be higher, but our excitement is even greater. We cannot wait to continue our work under this constellation. Won't you join us?
Communities form the fabric of our society, and it's clear that the health of the people and the health of those communities rely upon a wide range of resources. This is another constellation that will use our research and expertise to solve a critically important challenge to benefit society. Thank you. Our final constellation is the Disaster Resilience Constellation, which includes Stefan Schulenberg, Jonathan Wilson, Rich Forget, and Mustafa Altinakar.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a test. There is a major hurricane that is in the Gulf of Mexico.
It's moving right up toward New Orleans, and the forecast remains on track. This is a storm of historic proportion, stronger than Hurricane Camille, in fact, based on pressure in 1969.
2 years after the storm, one study of adults found that 1 in 12 residents wanted to kill themselves. 4 years after the storm, another study found 1/3 of low-income mothers suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder.
In the nation's 4th largest city, floods are a way of life. In 2015, a Memorial Day flood racked up almost $500 million in damages. Last year, Houston led the U.S. in flood-related deaths, mostly due to an April storm that claimed 8 lives.
And again, you can see this thing is moving right up toward Tuscaloosa. This is Tuscaloosa right here. The new Western Bypass is right here. So again, everybody in Tuscaloosa should just be shutting down.
That video down in the lower left-hand corner of the screen, that just gets worse and worse. EF4 tornado, possibly, maybe an EF5, depending. You know, the damage in Tuscaloosa was just unreal.
The new Madrid zone stretches 150 miles from Illinois to Tennessee. A 2009 report funded by the Federal Emergency Management Agency estimated that an earthquake registering 7.7 would damage more than 700,000 buildings, leave 2.6 million households in the dark, and cause nearly 86,000 injuries and deaths.
Overnight, firefighters battling fast-moving wildfires across the West. Hundreds of people forced to evacuate, the flames spreading dangerously close to homes.
It could turn out to be the worst environmental disaster in more than 20 years.
Thousands of gallons of crude oil are oozing into the Louisiana coastal waters 10 days now after that oil rig exploded in the Gulf of Mexico.
Disasters affect the lives of every one of us. They threaten our health and well-being. They threaten our communities, our state, and our country. Each year, on average, more natural disasters strike the United States than any other country except China. The National Weather Service reports that natural disasters result in over 500 fatalities on average each year. 2017 was a particularly active year in terms of disasters, with hurricanes Harvey, Irma, and Maria still forefront in our minds. Globally, the United Nations estimates that natural disasters have cost $1.4 trillion and affected 1.7 billion people over the past decade. In our state, we're at increased risk for experiencing natural disasters. We mark time by whether events occurred before Katrina or after, whether they occurred before Camille or after. We know natural disasters very well. They're a part of our culture. Tornado risk, for instance, is not localized to the Tornado Alley region of the Great Plains. Trend analysis over the past 50 years shows that the Gulf Coast, Mississippi River Valley, and the Carolinas also frequently encounter tornadoes. The Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama region suffers the highest tornado-related fatalities per square kilometer each year, with Mississippi experiencing more high-force tornadoes than any other state except Oklahoma. The Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama region is also at risk for other kinds of natural disasters, specifically earthquakes and flooding. For example, the New Madrid Fault along the central Mississippi River puts Arkansas, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Missouri at high risk of earthquake occurrence. And the region south of the New Madrid Fault is at high risk for flooding. While a levee system prevents major damage from Mississippi River floods, the flooding of its larger tributaries results in severe impact every 3 years. Natural disasters are not our only threat. There are technological disasters such as fires, aviation disasters, explosions, chemical and oil spills. There are domestic and international terrorist attacks. Some have come to refer to our youth as the disaster generation, growing up in a post-9/11 climate. Over the past 15 years, acts of mass violence have continued to afflict our nation, with the Federal Bureau of Investigation concluding in a recent study that mass shootings in public places are on the rise. Just this year, the deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history occurred when 58 people were killed and over 500 people were injured in Las Vegas. Clearly, the occurrence of a disaster, regardless of origin, is a matter of when as opposed to if.
The goal of the Disaster Resilience Constellation is to build a multidisciplinary program that can generate transformative, basic and applied research, computational and decision support tools, practices, laws, policies that would help the society at local, state, and federal levels to achieve resilience and sustainability. We can do this by understanding and addressing our vulnerabilities through a risk-based scientific approach encompassing all phases of disaster life cycle: prevention and mitigation, preparedness, response, and finally, recovery. Modern society represents a complex and interdependent network that relies heavily on 18 areas of critical infrastructure and key resources that are recognized by the Department of Homeland Security. To achieve the goal of community resilience, our constellation will address all 4 phases of the disaster cycle by focusing on 6 main areas: risk, resilience, and sustainability of infrastructures; community resilience, which includes socioeconomic and public, physical, mental health issues; laws, policies, and regulations; health and environmental impacts; research to practice and science communication; And finally, big data and data analytics.
The Disaster Resilience Flagship Constellation believes that reducing the impact of disasters on our communities requires a multidisciplinary approach covering all disaster management phases: prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery. The Constellation brings together expertise in fundamental and applied research from engineering, material sciences, public health, information technology, social sciences, and law to develop tools and practices for informed policymaking. Our goal is to mitigate the effects of disasters, raise public awareness, and to increase the resilience and sustainability of our communities. The University of Mississippi is in a unique position to promote disaster resilience at our university, state, region, country, and world. Mississippi is 7th nationally in the threat of natural disasters. Its climate and location aid in the formation of severe and sometimes devastating storms. Mississippi's physical infrastructure also makes it uniquely vulnerable. Among its 3,500 dams, Mississippi has 256 that are classified as high hazard dams, whose failure could result in a loss of human life, and 83 that are classified as significant hazard dams. The complexity and interconnectedness of vulnerable infrastructure with human behaviors increasingly leads to cascading and common cause effects from natural disasters. Given our place and capacities, the University of Mississippi can be a test bed for studying disaster management and prevention. We are a diverse and critical mass of experts, research centers, and support infrastructure centered on advancing knowledge in disaster resilience.
The Disaster Resilience Flagship Constellation provides an excellent opportunity for both campuses to work together. Researchers at the University of Mississippi and its Academic Medical Center campus in Jackson have been studying disasters and providing assistance to the community of Mississippi for decades. This constellation brings together the Oxford campus and the Jackson campus to achieve this goal. The Mississippi Center for Emergency Services was created in 2010 to expand Mississippi's ability to maintain medical services during a disaster. Since Hurricane Katrina and other disasters, the University of Mississippi Medical Center has increased its assets and capabilities to provide communications, coordination, and on-site medical care to any community in Mississippi. UMMC is an Emergency Support Function 8 resource under the Mississippi Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan. This increased emphasis on emergency preparedness and management led UMMC to take the proactive approach to disaster planning and creating the Mississippi Center for Emergency Services. In addition, the Medical Center provides clinical and didactic education, advanced response and support services, and a centralized location for all of the emergency management response for healthcare. Core components of the Center for Emergency Services include education, healthcare, and research. In education, we are training pre-hospital and public safety officials, as well as emergency responders and healthcare professionals to provide the highest level of emergency care in disasters. For healthcare, our goal is to provide the highest level of care for our patients during a disaster and maintain the healthcare infrastructure throughout the response. In research, we are conducting comprehensive programs to investigate how to improve the outcomes of our patients in a disaster. Collaboration between the main campus and the Medical Center will result in a transformative effort for Mississippi. Leveraging the strengths and expertise on both campuses will allow us to offer a full range of services to build a more resilient community to disasters.
Certainly making progress to solving this challenge, like the other constellations that we've discussed today, will directly influence the lives and livelihoods of Mississippians and those in the nation. As the flagship institution in the state, this work is truly our calling. Thank you. Please join me again in thanking each of the speakers today. It is clear that the knowledge and expertise to solve the challenges facing society today are not parked in one discipline or area. Research is relevant, and by forming critical, collaborative constellations, we are tackling some of society's greatest challenges. To our speakers today, thank you for helping us to have a better appreciation for the flagship constellations. I look forward to continuing the ongoing conversations with each of you about these areas. Most importantly, I look forward to the meaningful work that will be done and the difference that we are going to make in society. Thank you all of you for coming today.